Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Hope you guys are doing well on this Friday night. Tonight's video is going to be about my team, the North Queensland Cowboys. I think they are underrated. Now, before you guys absolutely explode and look at the thumbnail and look at the title of the video and go, oh, you're just a biased Cowboys supporter, let me just say this. Trust me, believe me, I am not being biased. I am not a biased Cowboys supporter. I am just being completely honest, and this is my honest opinion. Tonight's video is called The North Queensland Cowboys Are Underrated. Now, obviously, going into the 2021 NRL season, we are not far away. We are 13 days away from the season beginning. And I've seen a lot of people do their predictions already, and they've been giving out their top eights and the most improved and most disappointing teams. And to be honest, I think everyone's a little bit harsh on the Cowboys. Now, I know I'm a Cowboys supporter and obviously I hope for success and I want to see the club do well, but I think everyone has a little bit of short-term memory and everyone forgets how good some of these Cowboys players are. Now, look, like I said, not being biased, I'm just telling you the truth. Now, I'm going to go through the Cowboys draw and I'm going to give you guys a bit of my opinion on a couple of things about the Cowboys that I think everyone forgets about. So, we'll start off by looking at the Cowboys draw. Now, obviously, the Cowboys have a pretty good start to the year. They've got 9 of the first 12 in Queensland, not in Townsville. Now, I'll go through the draw so you guys know. Obviously, the Cowboys' first game is against Penrith down there in Sydney at Penrith Stadium, which is going to be a very tough game. Then in round 2, they take on the Dragons up at Townsville. Then they play the Gold Coast in Townsville as well. So they've got 2 of the first 3 up there in Townsville. Then they travel to the Sunshine Coast Stadium, which is in Queensland, to take on the Sharks. Then in round 5, they head down to Leichhardt Oval to take on their bogey team, the West Tigers. Then they're back at home again for the next 2 games, which are against the Bulldogs and the Raiders. And then they're supposed to travel to New Zealand to take on the Warriors on a Sunday, but that game will probably end up being at the Central Coast, obviously due to the border and the Chinese virus there. Then in round 9, they take on their big rivals, the Broncos, on a Saturday night up there in Townsville. Then in Magic Round, they play up at Suncorp Stadium against the Roosters. Then they play the next 2 games again. They play on a Thursday and Friday night against the Knights and the Warriors in Townsville. Then by then, it's round 12, it's the middle of the season. So, to be fair, the Cowboys have a really good start. You know, they play 2 teams that made the top 8 in the first 4 rounds, the Panthers and the Sharks. Now, the Dragons and Titans are games that the Cowboys could win. Panthers might be a tough game. Sharks, they could win. The Tigers game, it's the Cowboys' bogey team. They haven't won at Leichhardt Oval since the year 2000, so they'll probably lose that game. And then they got the Dogs and the Raiders up there in Townsville, which could be winnable games. The Raiders might be a tough one. The Warriors at the Central Coast, I don't think it'll be in New Zealand. The Broncos, who are their big rivals, who they could win. Roosters at Magic Round, which is another tough game. Newcastle and Townsville, which they did beat the Knights last year, up there in Townsville. And they've also got the Warriors up there in Townsville as well. And then that's a pretty good start to the year for the Cowboys. They're only playing, I think, 3 or 4 teams that made the out. They play Panthers. So the Cowboys, the teams they played that made the finals last year are Penrith, Cronulla, Canberra, and the Roosters and the Knights. So they played 5 teams that made the top 8 last year in the first 12. So and it's going to be it's an interesting start for the Cowboys. In the back end of the season, round 14, they take on the Seagulls down there at Brookie, which should be a pretty tough game. Then they got Cronulla up there in Townsville again. Newcastle down there at McDonald Jones Stadium. South Sydney at ANZ Stadium, or Stadium Australia now. Then the Roosters, Storm in Townsville. Broncos in Brisbane. Gold Coast at the Gold Coast. Tigers in Townsville. Parramatta at Bankwest, St. George at Wynn Stadium, and they finish off with Manly at Brookie. Now, they play in Sydney twice, back-to-back, so, actually, no, they don't. They play Newcastle in Newcastle, then South Sydney in Sydney, so they got 2 away games in a row, and they also do that again late in the season. They play in Brisbane and the Gold Coast, back-to-back, and they also play in Sydney at the back end of the year at Bankwest and at Wynn Stadium. So, look, I think the Cowboys probably have one of the best draws in the competition. 9 of the first 12 in Queensland, so it's going to be interesting how they go. But look, what I also want to talk about is Everyone has a short memory these days, it seems like. I think everyone seems to forget how good Michael Morgan is. Everyone forgets about how good Val Holmes can be. And everyone forgets about how good some of the Cowboys forwards are, the likes of Josh Mcguire, Jordan McLean, and all these sort of players. Now, obviously, Jordan McLean has been a bit of a flop at the Cowboys. There's no doubt about that. Josh Mcguire, I thought he had a really good year last year in a struggling Cowboys side. A very consistent forward, brings a lot of experience. You need experience these days. I think the back row is probably a position for the Cowboys that could be a bit of a weak link, as I think we all know. You know, Cohen Hess, bit of an overpaid wanker, to be honest. Tom Gilbert, a very young, promising back row coming through. Mitch Dunn does a pretty good job when he makes the side. And obviously, the Cowboys got the best forward in the game in Jason Taumalolo. Now, here's the thing. If you give me a fit Valentine Holmes, if you give me a fit Michael Morgan, you give me a fit Jason Taumalolo, you give me those three guys fit. If those guys can play at least 18 to 19 games out of a 25-round season, that team is going to go close to making the 8. Now, obviously, the Cowboys, they need to start the year well. They've obviously struggled to do that the last couple of years. They've been pretty disappointing the last couple of years or so. I know the last 2 or 3 years or so at the start of the season, everyone said Cowboys make the top 8 and all this, and it's been a complete mess. Going into this year, no one thinks the Cowboys will do anything. Now, me personally, I find the Cowboys a very hard team to get a read on, but what I will say is they are underrated. Everyone's talking about, oh, the Gold Coast will make the 8, the Bulldogs will be up there, who else is everyone talking about? Everyone's talking about the Sharks. Everyone's talking about the Warriors. No one seems to be talking about the Cowboys, which I think is a little bit harsh considering they've got a lot of youth coming through. The likes of the Hammer, Francis Mollo, Tom Gilbert, Murray Talangi, Scott Drinkwater still fairly young. Jake Clifford's obviously leaving to go to the Knights, but they've still got a lot of really good young players coming through, and they've got some experience, you know. The likes of Michael Morgan, Jason Taumalolo, Josh Mcguire, all these sort of players. You know, I think the Cowboys, they're a team that have a lot of experience and a lot of good youth coming through. Now, I'm not going to say where the Cowboys will finish this year, but what I will say is I think everyone needs to start appreciating the Cowboys a bit more. They're a little bit underrated compared to the other sides that are being talked about. I think the Cowboys will definitely improve a lot this year. They've got a new coach in Todd Payton, new assistant coaches there, the likes of Dean Young, Steve Georgalis. Steve Georgalis was an assistant coach, was the interim coach of the Bulldogs when Dean Pay got the sack last year and did a pretty good job with a struggling side. And Dean Young, who took over from Paul McGregor, obviously he struggled a little bit as well, but there was a little bit of improvement from the Dragons and the Bulldogs last year. Now they're going to be, now that Dean Young and Steve Georgalis have had a bit of head coaching experience, now they're going to be an assistant coach to Todd Payton, who pretty much rebuilt the Warriors last year, who just missed out in the top 8. I think the Cowboys will do well. They'll change the way they play, change the way they train, maybe some new set plays they do. You know, last year the Cowboys were really boring with the, obviously, out-the-back block players and the same old stuff they've been doing since 2015. So now they've got a whole new coaching staff, a whole new style of footy. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Cowboys go, but I think they're a very underrated team going into this year. You know, Kyle Felt, you know, one of the top 5, top 10 wingers in the game. He's a fantastic player. Does all the little things right. You know, you got the likes of Justin O'Neill, very experienced. The Hammer, he's the future. Valentine Holmes, we all know what he's capable of when he's fully fit. Isam Masters has a few question marks on him, but we all know if he gets it right, he can be a very good player. You know, the halves, whether it be Drinkwater, Morgan, Clifford Morgan, Michael Morgan is the key to the Cowboys' success. If he plays well, he is a top 5 half on his day. He's a fantastic leader, and he's just a phenomenal player. Michael Morgan needs to stay injury-free so he can live up to that $1 million price tag. And then, obviously, you got the forwards, you know, Mcguire and McLean up front. Francis Mollo is going to put a lot of pressure on Jordan McLean this year. The hooker, Reece Robson, a fantastic hooker coming through. I think he'll have a big year as well. The back row is probably the biggest concern for the Cowboys. You know, Mitch Dunn, Tom Gilbert, Cohen Hess. I think take your pick. I think Cohen Hess will probably start on the edge along with Mitch Dunn. Tom Gilbert's out for the first few rounds, but when he comes back, he'll be putting pressure on one of those players, depending who's in form and who's not. And then you got the best forward in the game, and Jason Taumalolo, who does a fantastic job. And everyone talks about the Cowboys bench. I mean, you know, if you've got the likes of Ruben Cotter coming off the bench, you know, it'll be Ruben and Cotter or Jake Granville for the hooker spot. You know, you got the likes of Lachlan Burr, who I think is a very good signing for the Cowboys. Francis Moller off the bench, great impact. Tom Gilbert, a fantastic young back rower coming through. Jake Clifford's the backup half. You know, they've got some pretty good players there, the Cowboys. So I think they're a pretty underrated team going into this year. And hopefully they have a good year for my sake. But let me know in the comment section below, do you think the Cowboys are underrated going into this season? I think they are. I think they're definitely a team that's not being talked about. And I think everyone forgets about how good Michael Morgan is. And everyone has a bit of short-term memory. Everyone has a bit of amnesia these days. So I think the Cowboys are going to improve this year, and I think they're a little bit underrated. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. I look forward to reading the feedback in the comments below. Until then, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic Friday night. Have a great Saturday. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night for the review between the Titans and the Warriors in Lismore. Until then, stay safe. See you later.